This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Tuesday, August 27th, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Disagreement on the Donald Trump-Kamala Harris debate format.
She's not a smart person. She doesn't want to debate.
I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
Donald Trump has tied Vice President Harris to the chaotic Afghan war withdrawal. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Pushing back against alleged election fraud in Texas.
We would prosecute voter fraud.
I'm Clayton Neville.
New election laws under scrutiny in Georgia after a lawsuit by Democrats, and the GOP governor's concerns. Will have details.
On Wall Street, stocks are coming off a mixed day, but the Dow opens this morning at a fresh record high. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
Walmart shoppers may want to double-check their school lunch supplies. I'm Jennifer King.
He somehow played for both teams in a baseball game. We'll tell you who did it and how. All ahead on America in the Morning. Former President Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris are sparring over the format for that September 10th debate scheduled to air on ABC TV. John Stolnis has details from Washington.
Trump and Harris are reportedly sparring over whether microphones should be muted in the next presidential debate coming in 2 weeks, with Harris's camp wanting the microphones unmuted while the other candidate speaks. Speaking to the press in Falls Church, Virginia yesterday, Trump said he'd rather they were muted, like in his debate against President Biden.
We agreed to the same rules and same specifications. And I think that's probably what it should be. But they're trying to change it. The truth is they're trying to get out of it because she doesn't want to debate. She's not a good debater. She's not a smart person. She doesn't want to debate.
In a statement, Harris campaign spokesman Brian Fallon said, quote, "The vice president is ready to deal with Trump's constant lies and interruptions in real time. Trump should stop hiding behind the mute button." Yesterday afternoon in Detroit, the former president talked national security and told the National Guard Association in attendance a Harris presidency would make America less safe.
They want endless war, open borders, voting rights, and free health care for illegal aliens, Soviet-style price controls, censorship, unlimited migration from terrorist hotspots, and unchecked power for the deep state.
Trump also received the backing of former Democratic Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. The now independent told the crowd that Trump has exercised the courage that we expect from our commander-in-chief.
In exhausting all measures of diplomacy, having the courage to meet with adversaries, dictators, allies, and partners alike in the pursuit of peace, seeing war as a last resort. The truth is, as we head towards our decision as a country in November, the same cannot be said about Kamala Harris.
Meanwhile, more than 200 Republicans who previously worked for the three Republican presidential nominees prior to Trump, former President George W. Bush, the late Senator John McCain, and Senator Mitt Romney, released an open letter endorsing Harris for president over Trump. John Stolnis, Washington.
Our nation marked the third anniversary of a suicide bombing that killed 13 U.S. troops at Kabul's airport during the chaotic Afghanistan war withdrawal. As Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports, it was a somber remembrance at Arlington National Cemetery attended by former President Donald Trump, who put partial blame on the botched pullout onto Kamala Harris.
At Arlington National Cemetery, Donald Trump paid his respects as wreaths were laid for the service members. Trump says he holds Harris and President Biden accountable for what he says was the most embarrassing day in U.S. history.
Most embarrassing, in my opinion, the most embarrassing day in the history of our country. It gave us Russia going into Ukraine. It gave us the October 7th attack on Israel. Because it gave us lack of respect. We're not respected. We were respected very much 4 years ago.
He's been looking to tie Kamala Harris to the botched pullout, saying she's bragged about being the last person in the room when President Biden decided on pulling troops out of Afghanistan. It's not just a political fight.
The fundamental mistake, fundamental flaw, was the timing of the State Department call of the NEO. I think that was too slow and too late.
Earlier this year, retired Generals Mark Milley and Frank McKenzie, who oversaw the pullout, blamed the administration for bad planning, with the president keeping just 650 troops there.
We needed to maintain a minimum force of 2,500 troops.
If we go down to zero, you're going to see a rapid collapse of the Afghan government and the Afghan military.
In a statement today, the president says the 13 troops were patriots in the highest sense. Harris says she honors every American who served in Afghanistan. The Biden administration was following an Afghan pullout commitment Trump negotiated with the Taliban a year before the attack. While Trump lays the blame entirely on Biden, a special investigation found decisions by both men were key factors, leading to the Afghan government and military collapse and Taliban takeover. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Answering to election fraud in Texas. Plus, Georgia Democrats attempt to block a new election law in the Peach State. Those stories next when America in the Morning continues after these messages. More potential severe weather from a storm system being tracked by AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy. Here's the Tuesday forecast from America in the Morning.
A strong cold front that moved through the northern plains states yesterday will shift into the Great Lakes region today and tonight. This system has had a history of producing gusty winds and hail, and as it moves into portions of southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, eastward to Michigan, there will once again be an opportunity for heavier storms to develop. These storms will have the potential to produce flash flooding, damaging winds, and hail. These storms will then carry into northern Ohio, northwest Pennsylvania, and western New York late in the day into tonight. Farther south, there'll be some more thunderstorm development on the tail end of this front through Nebraska and Iowa. There'll also be some heavier thunderstorms once again in portions of New Mexico into Colorado. Some of those storms could produce some localized flash flooding. After a few gusty thunderstorms in the Northeast yesterday, today will be largely dry with sunshine from New England into the Middle Atlantic today. This dry weather will continue through the Ohio Valley and Tennessee valleys, as well as a good portion of the Southeast. It is going to be increasingly warmer through most of these areas, as well with widespread 90s and even a few 100-degree readings in places like St. Louis, Chicago, and Nashville. This heat will continue westward into the Central Plains as well. Some record highs are likely to fall this afternoon. In the northwest, a cold front moving into the area will lead to some clouds and a few showers, especially late in the day and at night through portions of Washington, Idaho, and then Montana. This will also provide a cooler afternoon for the area with highs in the 60s and 70s. That's the weather across America. It'll be a hot day in Shreveport, Louisiana, with plenty of sunshine and a high near 100. Warmer weather will return to Salt Lake City, Utah, with sunshine and a high of 88. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Remember, follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. The Texas Attorney General is receiving backlash over recent raids surrounding alleged election fraud. From the Lone Star State, here's our Clayton Neville reporting.
The Texas State Director of the League for United Latin American Citizens, known as LULAC, says that an investigation launched by Texas AG Ken Paxton is an act of intimidation meant to keep Hispanic voters from casting a ballot. Now, Paxton has long vowed to thwart voter fraud and has been a defender of prosecuting those kind of crimes. He's done a slew of interviews on the topic, including this one with Tucker Carlson on X.
We would prosecute voter fraud because these local DAs who are controlled by Soros in the big counties like Travis, which is Austin, or Harris, which is Houston, or Bear, which is San Antonio, they are not going to prosecute. So we were doing it. We had 900 cases. So this whole idea there's no voter fraud, complete fabrication, we were prosecuting.
Earlier this month, the AG's office ordered raids in South Texas related to election fraud investigations. In response, LULAC said that many of those targeted were Democratic leaders and election volunteers. Some of them were older residents. The group argues the move by Paxton is an effort to suppress Latino voters and is now asking the DOJ to investigate. This as Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott announces this week more than 1 million people have been purged from the Texas voter roll since 2021. The governor says the removal includes thousands of non-citizens who were registered to vote, allegedly. I'm Clayton Neville.
On the same day that the Democratic National Committee and the Georgia Democratic Party filed a lawsuit to block new election rules in Georgia, that state's Republican governor is looking into whether he can remove state election board members. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution is reporting that Brian Kemp asked his state attorney general if he can remove any of the 5 members after the 3 Donald Trump-backed new officials championed a series of election rule changes that the Democrats claim could delay a vote certification and includes verifying ballot counts before the deadline for overseas and military votes. Georgia's GOP chairman says the new rules ensure election integrity. Trump favors wealthy, Harris favors middle class. That, according to one former economist during the Clinton era. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back here with America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, always putting clients' interests first. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. With the Tuesday Report, here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning with the Dow at a fresh record high. The other indexes, the S&P 500 index and the NASDAQ, pulled back a little bit.
The market is rebuilding that faith in the soft landing scenario. And it's created this broadening rally as everybody wants to embrace. But I do think in the interim, with seasonality being a little bit dicey, let's say starting in a couple of weeks, that's why you see a little back and forth action within the market.
CNBC's Mike Santoli. Gold settled at another record high yesterday, the 32nd all-time high of the year. $2,555 an ounce. Apple out with invitations to its new product event.
So this is likely going to be the new iPhone. Not expecting too many changes cosmetically or hardware-wise on this new model. But, of course, the story is going to be all artificial intelligence. And I'd also note this is going to be the 10th anniversary of the Apple Watch unveil. But, again, we're not expecting much different with the latest group of Apple Watches, which they also typically launch in the fall.
CNBC's Steve Kovac. While lots of restaurants say consumers have been pulling back a little with their spending, Raising Cane's customers aren't.
We do one thing better than anyone else. We have a focused menu. It's craveable chicken finger meals. So chicken fingers, fries, toast, a little bit of craveable sauce to go with that. That is our meal. And, we've been doing this consistently for a long time. And this year alone, our first quarter, we were up about 15% in same restaurant sales. Second quarter, we were up about just under 20%.
Raising Cane's co-CEO AJ Kumaran on CNBC.
Well, we have economists now jumping into the political discussion with talk of Trump being for the wealthy and Harris being for the middle class.
It's basically a vote for the middle class or a vote for the wealthy, says one economist, a Harvard professor and a former White House economic advisor.
He worked for the Clinton administration. What's he saying?
He tells CNBC that former President Trump says he'll protect the wealthy, while Vice President Harris says she'll protect average Americans.
President Trump says he wants to raise taxes on the middle class in order to pay for the tax cuts for high income and corporations. He talked about replacing the income tax with tariffs. And then the across-the-board tariff proposal is like a small version of that. Heritage people have been out there pushing that and defending that. And that's a real big difference. Is our taxes and tariffs going to go up on moderate income and middle income people, or are taxes going to go up on high income people? I'd much rather do the latter than do the former.
Harvard economist Jason Furman on CNBC. On today's watch list, we're going to get the latest on home prices. We get a fresh read on consumer confidence. The Mega Millions jackpot tonight, well, more than $500 million at $575 million.
All right. CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. Recall on a product sold at Walmart and a sports first when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Urgent recall regarding apple juice sold at Walmart. Correspondent Jennifer King reports this impacts 25 states across the U.S.
Walmart shoppers may want to double-check their school lunch supplies. The store is recalling over 9,500 cases of Great Value brand apple juice sold across the U.S. due to potentially harmful levels of inorganic arsenic. The recall applies to 6 packs of 8-ounce bottles packaged by Florida-based Refresco Beverages, sold in 25 states, Puerto Rico, and D.C. The urgency of the recall was bumped up by the Food and Drug Administration after an initial announcement on August 15th. Inorganic arsenic is more toxic to humans than the naturally occurring form, but levels found in the recalled juice are low enough that the FDA does not expect them to cause severe health consequences. I'm Jennifer King.
There's been a number of firsts in sports, but a backup catcher has done something that has never happened before and may never happen again in baseball. Correspondent Gethin Coolbaugh has the story.
In the 121-year history of Major League Baseball, no player had ever played for 2 teams in the same game until Monday. Danny Jansen became the first big league player to appear in the box score for both teams when the former Blue Jays catcher subbed in behind the plate for the Red Sox to resume a suspended game at Fenway Park.
It's cool. It's leaving a stamp like that on the game. It's interesting and it's strange, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to have that. And so yeah, at the end of the day, it's a cool thing.
Jansen was at the plate batting for the Blue Jays when the June 26th game between Toronto and Boston was suspended by rain. The Red Sox traded for the 29-year-old and 7th-year veteran in exchange for 3 minor league players on July 27th. Gethin Coolbaugh, Boston.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, August 27th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
A former Democratic presidential candidate is now endorsing Donald Trump. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Tension in the Middle East de-escalating for now, but concerns are still growing. I'm Clayton Neville.
Police now know what led a man to gun down 4 members of his own family in New York.
Special counsel Jack Smith wants to revive the classified documents case against Donald Trump. I'm Pamela Burr.
An Army private who fled to North Korea will plead guilty to desertion. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Canada has announced a 100% tariff on imports of Chinese-made electric vehicles. I'm Nayan Kim.
We may not have seen the last of Ted Lasso. I'm Kevin Carr.
We're back after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. The tropics remain quiet. No expected development of hurricanes for the Atlantic Basin for some time. Turning our focus inland, here's the national forecast from AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
The Northeast will be drying out today after some stronger thunderstorms yesterday. This change will lead to plenty of sunshine from New England to the Middle Atlantic. Dry weather will also continue into the Ohio and Tennessee valleys, as well as a good portion of the southeast. For these same locations, it's going to be increasingly warmer with widespread 90s and even a few 100-degree readings in places like St. Louis, Chicago, and Nashville. This heat will continue westward into the Central Plains as well. Record highs are expected to fall this afternoon. A strong cold front that moved through the northern plains states yesterday will shift into the Great Lakes region today and tonight. This system has had a history of producing gusty winds and hail, and as it moves into portions of southern Wisconsin and northern Illinois eastward to Michigan, there will once again be an opportunity for heavier thunderstorms to develop. These storms will have the potential to produce flash flooding, damaging winds, and hail. The storms will then shift into northern Ohio, northwest Pennsylvania, and western New York late in the day and tonight. Farther south, there will also be some scattered thunderstorm development on the tail end of this front through Nebraska and Iowa. And there will be some heavier thunderstorms once again through portions of New Mexico into Colorado. Some of these storms could produce some flash flooding. In the northwest, we have a cold front moving into the area, leading some clouds and a few showers, especially late in the day and tonight through portions of Washington, Idaho, and then Montana. Farther south, it will remain very warm to hot with plenty of sunshine from California and Nevada through Arizona. Highs in the valleys and deserts will once again be well into the 90s and 100s. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
I'm John Trout. Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Donald Trump picked up the endorsement of an ex-Democratic congresswoman who ran for the party's presidential nomination against Kamala Harris 4 years ago. As Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports, the former president and the campaign of Kamala Harris are bickering over debate details, with their first showdown scheduled in 2 weeks on ABC.
It is a privilege to be here with all of you, my brothers and sisters in uniform, especially on this day of all days.
Tulsi Gabbard ran for the Democratic nomination 4 years ago, and when she dropped out, backed Joe Biden.
He will lead our country guided by the spirit of aloha, respect, and compassion.
Since then, Gabbard has shifted from the party, campaigned for Republicans, and the National Guard veteran stood alongside Trump.
Whether you're a soldier, you're an airman, a Marine, sailor, or a coastie, he keeps us in his heart in the decisions that he makes.
Gabbard has long signaled support for Trump, even as a House Democrat. She was the only lawmaker to vote present when the House impeached Trump in 2019.
The agreement was that it would be the same as it was last time. In that case, it was muted. I didn't like it the last time, but it worked out fine. I mean, ask Biden how it worked out. It was fine.
The presidential campaigns are arguing over details of their next debate, scheduled for September 10th on ABC. While squabbling over a debate's mechanics is common, a strong debate showing is vital for both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, who moved atop the Democratic ticket after President Biden's disastrous first debate. The fight is over muting microphones when a candidate is not speaking. Both the president and Trump agreed to that for their debate.
We agreed to the same rules. Same rules and same specifications. And I think that's probably what it should be.
The Harris camp wants mics live all the time. Trump says the rules this time should be the same.
But they're trying to change it. The truth is they're trying to get out of it because she doesn't want to debate. She's not a good debater. She's not a smart person. She doesn't want to debate.
But the ex-president's also raising the possibility he might not show up on ABC, calling the network a disgrace and saying he'd rather appear on nearly any other network. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Tensions in the Middle East have de-escalated since Sunday's exchange of rocket attacks between Hezbollah and Israel, but world leaders are still increasingly concerned about the potential of a growing conflict. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports talks surrounding a potential ceasefire in Gaza, mediated by the U.S., continue this week in Cairo.
White House National Security spokesman John Kirby says that the U.S. is closely watching what Iran does next.
I mean, they remain prepared and postured should they want to conduct some sort of large-scale attack on Israel. That's why we remain prepared and postured to defend against that attack and to defend our own troops and facilities in the region. You know, we've got a couple of carriers here now. There's other assets in both air and ground-based available to us. So we're postured and prepared should we need to do that.
But Kirby told Fox that's not where the U.S. wants things to go.
We obviously don't want to see that outcome. We don't want to see another night like we saw on late Saturday night over the weekend, and certainly nothing that would be more severe coming from Tehran, which is why, again, we are prepared militarily should it come to that. But also it's why we're working so hard in Cairo to see if we can get this ceasefire in place and to get the war to stop, at the very least for 6 weeks or so we can get hostages out and we can get more humanitarian assistance in.
Kirby was asked by Fox News how involved President Biden is with what's happening in the Middle East.
I mean, you know as well as I do, the President of the United States, wherever they are, have access to all the communications and all the advisors that they need. I mean, he was being updated on the attacks over the weekend in real time by his national security team. He was on the phone with Prime Minister Modi today talking about Ukraine. And last week, he made several calls to try to make sure that we could get these ceasefire talks off to a good start. He's watching things very, very closely.
Well, there's still are some concerns surrounding another rocket attack by Hezbollah. Israel's airport is back open today, and life returning to the way things were before Sunday. Still, though, a country and a region on edge as war rages. I'm Clayton Neville.
More is being learned about the man who massacred 4 members of his family in a New York City suburb. Correspondent Julie Walker reports police have determined what led the man to open fire in the home he lived in all his life.
A Long Island, New York man distraught he was being forced to move from his late mother's home, shot and killed his brother, 2 sisters, and niece before killing himself.
The perception of Joseph Jr. was that he was being cut out of the will and was going to be displaced without a place to go. He did have past mental issues, psychological issues that were reported to us that we still have not confirmed. Because of that perception, he decided that day to get a loaded Mossberg shotgun, 12 gauge, approached them in the rear area of the house, and from the kitchen fired 12 shots, striking all 4 of them multiple times.
Nassau County Police Captain Steve Fitzpatrick says the siblings wanted to sell the home.
The entire family is now gone.
He says shooter Joseph DeLucia Jr. was 59 and worked as an auto mechanic.
Spent all his money on his tools and stuff. The house is pretty much hoarded, packed with tools and stuff involved in motor mechanics. He was living there his entire life, never lived on his own. So you can see the mindset where his world was now changing at 59 years old, and he was panicking.
Fitzpatrick says while he had to move out of the house, he was being provided for and wasn't being cut out of the will. I'm Julie Walker.
Prosecutor wants to reinstate criminal charges against former President Trump, plus alleged Army private defector back on American soil. Those stories and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. I'm John Trout. This is America in the Morning. Special Counsel Jack Smith is urging a federal appeals court to reinstate the criminal case charging former President Trump with hoarding classified documents and obstructing the federal investigation. Pamela Furr has the latest.
Smith argued on Monday that U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon made several mistakes when she dismissed the case in July and agreed with Trump's lawyers that Attorney General Merrick Garland's appointment of the special counsel was unconstitutional. Now, in his filing with the 11th Circuit Appeals Court, Smith says his appointment was in keeping with a long tradition and endorsed by Congress through appropriations. Trump was charged last summer with several counts of mishandling sensitive government documents taken from the White House at the end of his presidency and charged with efforts to hinder the investigation. The former president and his 2 co-defendants, Trump employees, also accused of obstruction, have pleaded not guilty. I'm Pamela Furr.
An Army private who left his unit and fled to North Korea is back on U.S. soil and will plead guilty to several charges. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer is following the case.
An Army private who fled to North Korea just over a year ago will plead guilty to desertion and 4 other charges and take responsibility for his conduct. That's according to his attorney, who says that King intends to admit his guilt to military offenses, including desertion and assaulting an officer. 9 other offenses, including possession of sexual images of a child, will be dismissed under the terms of the deal. King bolted across the heavily fortified border from South Korea in July 2023 and became the first American detained in North Korea in nearly 5 years. King's plea hearing is scheduled for September 20th at Fort Bliss, Texas. Desertion can result in imprisonment for as much as 3 years. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
The nation's national parks will soon receive a massive donation. Correspondent Jennifer King has that story.
The National Park Foundation is set to receive a $100 million gift from the Indianapolis-based Lilly Endowment. The nonprofit, chartered by Congress in 1967, says it's the largest ever grant for national parks and will be used to address the needs of more than 400 national park sites in the U.S. CEO Will Shafroth says they hope to announce the first round of grants from the donation later this year. High on their priority list, restoring coral reefs at Biscayne National Park in Florida, where partners are studying ways to fight damage from vessel groundings, human debris, coral bleaching, invasive lionfish, and stony coral tissue loss disease, which can actually be treated with antibiotics. Researchers are gathering and raising thousands of baby coral to repopulate the struggling reef. Other top priorities, bringing back trout to parks out west and creating opportunities for more young people to visit. I'm Jennifer King.
Canada follows the lead of the U.S., raising a strong tariff against Chinese-made electric vehicles. Correspondent Naeun Kim has details.
The move matches the US and follows similar plans of the European Commission. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said Canada will also impose a 25% tariff on Chinese steel and aluminum. During a meeting with Trudeau, the news was met with encouragement by US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, who's set to make his first visit to Beijing. US President Joe Biden was the first to introduce major tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles in May. Biden said Chinese government subsidies ensure its companies don't have to turn a profit, giving them an unfair advantage in global trade. Chinese firms can sell EVs for as little as $12,000. Its officials argue their production would aid a transition to the green economy. There's been no immediate response from China. I'm Naeun Kim.
Gannett Media shuts down their consumer review site amidst allegations of AI-generated content. Here's Chuck Palm with that in today's Tech Report.
Gannett Media is shutting down one of their consumer product review sites, previously accused of publishing articles written using AI tools. The product review website, called Reviewed, will be shutting down effectively November 1st, according to an article on TheVerge.com and people familiar with the matter. Reviewed spokesperson Lark Marie Anton said, "After careful consideration and evaluation of the Reviewed business, we've decided to close the operation." The site had fallen under scrutiny at times by its own employees, where in October of last year, Reviewed staff publicly accused Gannett of publishing AI-generated product reviews on their site. The articles in question were written in a strange and stilted manner, and the staff found that the authors of the articles didn't seem to exist on other social media sites. Gannett explained that the articles had been produced by third-party marketing company Advon, but did deny that any AI was used in the production of those reviews. Tell us what you think of AI-generated news at allthetoptech.tech. I'm Chuck Palm.
America in the Morning's Robert Workman has Tuesday sports.
Baseball Monday, the Royals swept a doubleheader from the Guardians in Cleveland, 4-3 and 9-4 to move to within a game of the top spot in the AL Central. Bobby Witt Jr. hit the tie-breaking tater in the 8th inning of Game 1. Salvador Perez hit a grand slam and drove in 6 in the nightcap. Blue Jays took 2 from the Red Sox, 4-1 in the completion of a suspended game from June. A bit of history. Danny Jansen became the first to play for 2 teams in the same game. The former Toronto catcher traded to Boston last month.
It's cool. It's leaving a stamp like that on the game. It's interesting and it's strange, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to have that. And at the end of the day, it's a cool thing.
The Jays won the scheduled game 7-3. Dingers for George Springer in both contests. Bryce Harper's RBI knock in the 10th lifted the Phillies to a 3-2 win over the Astros in a matchup of division leaders. Braves buried the Twins 10-6, scoring 9 times in the first 2 innings. Matt Olson drove in 5. Cubs clobbered the Pirates 18-8, scoring 8 times in the 6th and 6 more in the 9th. Dansby Swanson with a granny. Miguel Amaya 4 hits and 4 RBI. Yankees over the Nationals. New York hit 3 homers, none of them by Aaron Judge. Padres, Tigers, Mariners, and Rockies win. NFL opening night is a week from Thursday. Rosters must be reduced from 90 players to 53 by 4 p.m. Eastern Time today, so plenty of moves are coming. Monday, the Packers added quarterback Malik Willis from the Titans. He'll back up Jordan Love. The Chiefs brought back Juju Smith-Schuster, their top receiver, on their Super Bowl team 2 years ago. He was let go by the Patriots earlier this month. And wideout CeeDee Lamb ended his holdout with the Cowboys, agreeing to a 4-year deal worth $136 million. Tennis day 1 at the U.S. Open, wins for defending champions Novak Djokovic and Coco Gauff. That's Tuesday Sports.
Thank you, Robert. When we return on America in the Morning, Warden, check please, after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. An award-winning Apple TV series is on the verge of getting another season. Kevin Carr has details.
Ted Lasso fans will be happy to hear AFC Richmond might have more time on the pitch. Rumors of a Ted Lasso spinoff have been rumbling since the Emmy-winning comedy wrapped up its last season in 2023. Hannah Waddingham, who plays team owner Rebecca Walton, told Today a year ago that she was open to the idea.
I would love that, but I mean, one thing's for sure, unless Unless the man himself is down with that, then that's not for me.
Now this might happen as a fourth season rather than just a spin-off. Deadline reports that Waddingham, along with Brett Goldstein, who plays Roy Kent, and Jeremy Swift, who plays Leslie Higgins, have been optioned by Warner Brothers Television. No word yet on the return of Jason Sudeikis, who plays the title character.
You watch, from now on, I'll be floating like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Except I won't die immediately after using my stinger. I plan to float and sting for the entirety of the whole season.
Sudeikis and co-star Brendan Hunt, who plays Coach Beard, are in a different union than their UK counterparts, and the studio will likely start negotiating with them soon if they haven't started already. Sudeikis first played Ted Lasso in Premier League promos for NBC Sports.
We're going to win a lot of games. We're going to get in the playoffs.
No playoffs.
There's no playoffs. Again, my job just got a lot easier. Ties and no playoffs. Why do you even do this?
The character spawned an uplifting series in 2020 that gave audiences a bright spot in the middle of a global pandemic.
For me, success is not about the wins and losses.
According to Deadline, production could start as soon as early 2025. I'm Kevin Carr.
So you're looking for a restaurant to impress a date or a business client, or maybe you want to just try out something new and different. Correspondent Jackie Quinn may have found such a place to hold a unique dinner party, an Ohio prison, featuring food grown, cooked, and served by inmates.
Some 50 people attended a 5-course dinner at the Grafton Correctional Institution this month with flowers and salad greens grown in the prison garden and a gourmet meal featuring salmon and lamb. You don't usually think of a prison as a place to go for fine dining.
We're reframing what's possible in prison.
Chef Brandon Krastowski explains his charitable organization Edwin's that teaches inmates skills for jobs in restaurants and hospitality.
12 years ago from today, classes started here teaching men in prison about culinary arts and hospitality. That was it. It was a belief that every human being, regardless of their past, has the right to a fair and equal future.
Inmates like Greg Sigelmeyer bringing 5 courses of salad, entrees, and desserts.
This could be the rest of my life.
Serving the guests.
They're not looking at me as a number. They're looking at me as a person.
The warden at Grafton, Jerry Spatney.
We want our neighbors to be prepared to be law-abiding citizens, and that's what this program is about. It's not just about teaching guys how to cook or how to prepare food. This gives them re-entry level skills so that when they go home, they can be successful in that environment.
I'm Jackie Quinn.
Could cut down on the dine and dash problem. America in the Morning for Tuesday, August 27th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.